The heat record that Atlanta reached 105 degrees, and it was really humid. And that day we were walking around outside all the time. But on the other end, cold winters in the low 30s, high 20s. One time when I was working with the English missionaries, we went up and knocked on this door. The owner didn't answer. We started walking down the driveway. It was a really long driveway. About halfway down, this dog comes around from the back of the house and starts chasing us. And so we just booked it. And then we ended up like running across the street and jumping onto this other guy's porch to get away from the dog. So that was exciting. None of us got hurt, but it was a little scary. So we just turned around and we're like, oh! We saw one guy, one of the elders ran off in one direction and then the other, we all just ran in different directions just trying to get away. So yeah, that was fun. The big Hispanic food that's different is menudo. It's cow stomach. And I knew before I had it that a lot of Americans didn't like menudo, and I didn't really like it either. It's just really chewy because cow stomach is not. It's just really chewy, and the taste wasn't that great. I mean, it was okay, but I wouldn't purposely eat it again. So one thing I got worse at was parking. Even though I drove everywhere, I just got worse and worse. I kept pulling into spots like all crooked and then I have to fix it again. My trainer was really good at finding money on the ground, just like seeing it. And so when I was with him, I also got good at finding money in our path that we were walking on. We also got really good at kicking pine cones at each other's feet while we were walking. And I also got really good at flipping around in cul-de-sacs because I did it all the time. Because we would drive into a neighborhood and realize we made wrong turns, we'd have to flip around, and I just did that just over and over again. So, yeah. In my first area, one of the apartment complexes that we often were in, there was this guy that was getting upset with a lot of, like, there was an ice cream vendor who was Hispanic, and he was hassling the vendor a lot. And there was another lady selling tamales, and he was hassling her, and he called the police on those two people because he thought they didn't have permits or something like that. But anyway, so like the police showed up, and then I don't remember where the guy was at that point, but so the police came and talked to. I think they actually came and talked to us first because we just happened to be there when the police were coming and stuff. And so my companion. I was new, so I still didn't speak a lot of Spanish, but my companion was able to translate for like the ice cream vendor and the tamale lady. And then there was like a whole big like bunch of Hispanic people like gathered around, like trying to see what was going on. And then so the guy ended up like just going to prison for a night because he was creating havoc and being, I don't know, he was being special. And then we walked away. We're like, okay, guys, we'll see you all tomorrow, because we came back there all the time. But they're like, gracias, hermanos, like. So they were really grateful that we were able to, translate for them and the cops. Yeah, it was a good experience. One of the greatest life lessons I learned on my mission was how to deal with people, how to get along with companions that I didn't necessarily get along with, or that we didn't really have a lot in common. I learned how to work hard, and my spiritual life lesson is I really came to understand the importance of the gospel of Jesus Christ, and why it's important, why everyone needs it, and what it means for me personally. So I'm thinking the hardest experiences I had were because of the companion that I was with, that we just didn't get along, or we just had differing opinions. And one particular companion, he was sick a lot, and it's not his fault that he was sick. He just was, and so it was hard for him to work because he was sick. And so a lot of time we would stay in the apartment because he was sick. Almost half of my time in that transfer was in the apartment. And on top of that, we disagreed about a lot of things, and I just remember getting to this point where I like broke down in tears to him because I just felt like we didn't understand. And me as a person, I don't like confronting people about things I disagree with. Like I avoid arguing with people at all costs, even if that means I'm just holding in my feelings. And so I learned in that case, like it got to the point where I cried, and I felt better after I cried. That it's better to like talk about how you feel, like as you go, instead of just bottling it all up. because I felt better like right after I talked to him about it. Even if like he didn't really do anything on his end, like I felt better. So yeah, that was a good experience. One investigator we're teaching, she had been baptized when she was 8, but then never went to church, so she didn't really know what it meant to be a Mormon, what Mormons believe. So she was a member, she just didn't really know what it meant to be a member. So we were teaching her, and she wasn't understanding the importance of the gospel, or why did she have to come to our church when she was going to a church already. And as a missionary, I always wanted to say really bold things, just because it's cool to be bold. But in this instance, I actually felt like it was the right thing to do, and I told the sister. I basically said, "Sister, if the church you go to doesn't believe in the celestial kingdom, how are you going to get there?" And when I said that, that was one of the strongest moments I had felt the spirit of my mission. I mean, the spirit just filled the room, and I was I was almost brought to tears because it was just a really powerful spiritual experience. Another really cool spiritual experience that we had. We were in ward council meeting, and the stake president was there, and he asked us how would we get a baptism a week in our branch. And so we're all throwing out answers like, oh, talk to the members for referrals, invite everyone to come to church, throwing out stuff like that. And the stake president said, if you get 10 investigators to church, you'll have a baptism every week. And so we're like, oh, cool, that's a cool goal. We'll try to, we didn't have any investigators at that church that week. So we're like, okay, cool. Down the road, we'll try to get there. But that week, me and my companion worked really hard. So that very next Sunday, we had 10 investigators at church, and that was the first week of 4 weeks in a row that we had a baptism. So it was really cool to see the stake president prophesy of, and with his calling as being the stake president over our stake, being able to receive revelation for the stake and also for the missionary work on the stake. And it was just really cool that week after he told us that there was going to be a baptism every week, how these investigators that we had been teaching but weren't really going anywhere started making commitments, and their baptismal dates just all lined up week after week, and they all happened. So for me, when I got home, I ended up working for a gardener pretty much within a month after getting home, and that was really good because it kept me busy. And I would definitely recommend getting a job or going back to school as soon as possible to keep yourself busy, because you go from being a missionary and being on a schedule all the time. From 10 in the morning till 9 at night, you're proselyting and you're doing something, whereas going home and having nothing to do all day, that's hard. That's hard to deal with. And so I was really grateful that I was able to work for a gardener, even though that was a really hard job, and we worked 12-hour days. It kept me busy and it helped me readjust to being I don't want to say a normal person, but getting back to normal life after the mission. Things I would suggest: keep reading the scriptures for sure. You don't want to get in the habit of slacking off on that. As a missionary, you're spiritually engulfed all the time. You're studying the scriptures and then you're preaching about the gospel, and then when you come home, you're not doing that anymore. But you can still have personal study, and you could even still have companionship study, whether that be with your sibling or your parents or your significant other. And that's really important because you don't want to start losing the great testimony that you gained on your mission. So definitely make sure that scripture study is of big importance in your life after you return home. So along with things to do when you get home, you're gonna miss your mission, so talk to people in your mission. Call your investigators if you can. I'll write them letters or email, because they still want to hear from you. And it's really great to be able to connect with them and see how they're doing. These people that I taught and helped bring to the waters of baptism, I love them a lot. And so reaching out to them and letting them know that you still love them will help you. It'll help you remember your mission, and also, help you remember the importance that your mission had to you. I mean, me being home so long, I've been home for 2 years and 5 months now. Um, that's a long time. Um, and so, I mean, sometimes it's easier to forget like what the mission meant to you because right now I'm going to school and I work, and so I'm caught up in other things. But taking those moments to reach out to people helps you bring all the goodness of the mission back. So.